he decided to replace two-time Premier League champion and hugely popular keeper Joe Hart. The man chosen to fill Hart's place was Chilean shot-stopper Claudio Bravo. With such big shoes to fill, it was never going to be easy for Bravo, but he arrived from Barcelona with a huge trophy cabinet including 2 La Ligas and a Champions League. Yet things would soon go very wrong for Bravo in the UK. In his debut against local rivals Man United, Bravo's erratic display saw him needlessly give away a goal and worry Man City fans. And things got worse when he was sent off against Barcelona in the Champions League as City sunk to a 4-0 defeat. As the pressure increased, his league form continued to fall. At one point in the season, he failed to save from 6 consecutive shots on target he faced. By February, Guardiola had seen enough and Bravo was dropped in favour of fellow South American Willy Caballero. Bravo finished the campaign with the worst save success rate in the division and was labelled by many journalists as the worst signing of the season. His demise was confirmed when City signed Edison the following summer, leaving Bravo permanently on the bench. Although he still serves as backup to Edison to this day, no one quite knows what went so horribly wrong for the two-time Copa America champion in the Premier League. But before we go on to our next section, just a quick reminder, right back, Martin Cáceres. Martin Cáceres has seemingly been around forever, but it was back in 2008 when he sealed his first big move, joining Barcelona from Villarreal for £14 million. Cáceres arrived off just a single La Liga season, where he had been an ever-present in defence while on loan at relegation survivors Recreativo. But it wasn't long before injury would strike, a factor that has riddled his career ever since. Competing with Bayern, who struggled to maintain fitness and form. Over the course of the campaign, Cáceres would find his game time limited to cup appearances, and would finish with just 23 outings in all competitions. The following season, Juventus took a chance on Cáceres, bringing him to Turin on loan. But with injuries plaguing his career, he has only once managed more than 14 league appearances in a single campaign since 2011. While he was involved in one of Barcelona's best seasons ever, winning La Liga, the Copa del Rey and the Champions League title, Cáceres was hardly a central figure to the success. Undoubtedly talented, if injuries hadn't hindered his career, it's possible Cáceres wouldn't be featuring on this list at all. Centre-back, Mehdi Benatia. In August 2014, Bayern Munich beat off a number of Europe's big clubs to secure the services of Moroccan star Mehdi Benatia. Yet, after 4 commanding years in Serie A with Udinese, young defender in the Bundesliga. In his first season, he made just 15 league starts as he struggled to adapt to his new surroundings. Despite the lack of appearances, on paper Benatia was performing to a strong standard. An average of 3.6 clearances and 1.7 interceptions per game did rank above the likes of Philipp Lahm and centre-back Dante. But niggling injuries and off-field antics would begin to signal the end of his Bayern career as Guardiola seemingly grew tired of the defender. At one point, Benatia was forced to deny an embarrassing story that he had forgotten his passport ahead of a Champions League away fixture to Benfica and had to be left at home. By the time Benatia departed for Juventus in 2016, he stated his 2 years at Bayern were the hardest of his career. But with Benatia currently plying his trade in Qatar after making just 41 league appearances in 3 years in Serie A, his career suggests he simply wasn't good enough to be a Guardiola player. Centre-back, Dimitro Kruginski. Dimitro Kruginski is a name remembered in Catalonia for all the wrong reasons. Playing just one dismal season in Spain, the Ukrainian is our pick as Guardiola's worst defensive signing. Kruginski signed from a Shakhtar Donetsk side that had stormed to success in the UEFA Cup in 2009, beating Spurs, CSKA Moscow and Marseille on the way. As one of their star players, it seemed like decent business when Barcelona purchased him the following summer for €25 million. But Kruginski's dream as the first Ukrainian to play for the Spanish Giants would soon turn into a nightmare. At just 24 years old, he needed time to adapt to the demands of playing for Barcelona, but time simply wasn't something the fans were willing to give. He looked disastrous from the start and was constantly caught out of position. Routinely booed by fans, his misery was confirmed when he gave away a vital penalty against Sevilla, leading to a 2-1 defeat. After just 851 minutes of league football, Barcelona player. And just 37 league appearances in 5 seasons at Shakhtar suggests Kruginski never truly recovered from his Barca horror show. Left back, Benjamin Mendy. Perhaps unlucky to feature on this list, Benjamin Mendy has to be considered as one of Guardiola's worst signings due to the sheer amount of money paid for the injury-prone fullback. Man City made a real statement in the 2017 market when they backed up the signing of Kyle Walker with the £52 million purchase of Mendy. Part of a hugely successful Monaco side from 16-17, who would join the likes of Mbappe, Bernardo Silva and Bakayoko in sealing big money moves abroad. However, after just 7 appearances, Mendy would suffer the first of 2 severe injuries during his time in Manchester. Returning in 2018, Mendy began to show why City had paid such a huge sum for him. 5 assists from 10 games and a colourful social media presence would endear him to the City faithful. But he soon suffered another season-ending injury to his knee. In his absence, Guardiola has often turned to Zinchenko to fill his place. And while offensively inferior to Mendy, the Ukrainian's defensive stats trumped the Frenchman's. With just 19 league appearances in over 2 years, Mendy has currently cost Man City just over £2.7 million per game. Unless he can bring that number down with a consistent run in the team, Mendy could end up as a rare Guardiola mistake. Right wing, Ibrahim Afellay. Another player who could consider themselves unlucky to be on this list is former Wonder Kid Ibrahim Afellay. Signed in January 2011, the PSV Academy product was tipped to be one of the future stars of world football. By 23, Afellay had been captain of the Dutch Giants and had amassed over 150 league appearances. In 2008, he was even named Dutch Footballer of the Year, having scored 13 goals from midfield. After choosing to run down his contract, Barcelona were able to snap him up for a meagre £2.7 million. Joining halfway through the season, Afellay made a positive start to life in Barcelona. He made 16 appearances in his first season and even managed to assist Lionel Messi in the Champions League semi-final against Real Madrid. But heartbreak would soon follow for the young Dutchman. A hamstring injury and then a torn ACL effectively off on loan at Schalke in Germany. Despite some positive moments at Olympiacos and even 59 Premier League appearances whilst at Stoke City, Afellay would never truly hit the heights his PSV days had promised. Centre mid, Mario Götze. Once the golden boy of German football, Mario Götze's €37 million move to Bayern Munich in 2013 appeared to be a Guardiola masterstroke. During a hugely successful spell at Borussia Dortmund, Götze formed a lethal partnership with Marco Reus. In the 12-13 season alone, the pair collectively contributed 26 goals and 22 assists for Jurgen Klopp's side. Yet the draw to play under the Spaniard was too strong for Götze to resist. Despite some positive moments, the reality of playing at Germany's biggest clubs with the likes of Robben and Ribery seemed to affect the young star's confidence. Götze would go on to score 36 goals in 114 appearances, but his inconsistent form never fully endeared him to the Bavarian faithful. Criticism of his performances peaked when Bayern legend Beckenbauer's boyhood club Borussia Dortmund in 2016. Though he was thankful for his time under Guardiola, he would ultimately describe his move to Bayern as a mistake. Götze makes this list for never truly realising his potential under Pep. But with 5 Bundesliga, countless domestic trophies and a World Cup winners' medal to boast, Götze's career has hardly been a disaster. Centre mid, Alexander Hleb. Not many players will regret their decision to join Barcelona as much as Belarusian ace Alexander Hleb. With 130 appearances in a Champions League runners-up medal to his name, Hleb arrived from Arsenal in 2009 at a time when Arsene Wenger's influence at the Gunners was beginning to wane. Despite the versatile midfielder being popular in North London, Hleb opted for a £50 million move to the Spanish Giants. But by March 2009, and with just 5 league starts to show, Hleb was beginning to regret his decision. Similar to Martin Cáceres, Hleb was involved in a Barcelona team that was incredibly successful and won the treble in 2008-09. And understandably, Hleb simply could not force his way into a midfield feature enthused by the Belarusian, who would feature sparingly from the bench in his one season in Catalonia. A nomadic career across a number of clubs would follow as Hleb struggled to rediscover some form. Still playing today in Belarus, Hleb is not ashamed to admit leaving Arsenal and Wenger was the biggest regret of his career. Left wing, Nolito. Guardiola has managed to turn Man City into one of the best sides in Premier League history. So it makes it even more curious that he decided to sign Nolito for £14 million in 2016. The Spanish winger arrived with a respectable, if slightly uninspiring, goal-scoring record for Galician side Celta Vigo, having netted 39 times in 100 league appearances. So it appeared to be an inspired piece of business when he was involved in 7 goals in his first 9 games. In a team of superstars, Nolito was certainly holding his own. But things would drop off significantly for the Spaniard. Eventually falling out of favour, he played 24 minutes of league football in 2017. His displeasure of playing in England was laid bare when he described living in Manchester as living in a cave. Regularly outshone by his teammates, Nolito would only complete a dribble every other game and offer 0.7 key passes a match, half the output contributed by fellow wingers Sterling and to see Nolito heading back to Spain the following summer, leaving his Manchester cave for Sevilla in a £6.3 million move, with no Citizens fans shedding a tear. Striker, Kerrison. If you're scratching your head trying to remember who Kerrison is, then you are not alone. Often dubbed the worst transfer in Barcelona history, Kerrison failed to ever play a single minute for the Blaugrana. Ex-Barcelona president Juan Laporta thought he had unearthed the next Brazilian gem when he signed Kerrison in 2009 from Palmeiras for €14 million. And after 2 prolific seasons for the striker in Brazil's Serie A, you could have forgiven Laporta for thinking he was onto something. Sadly, the transfer would end up being a disaster for both the club and player. Never deemed good enough for the first team, Kerrison spent his time at Barcelona on endless loan spells in Portugal, Italy and Brazil, where he consistently failed to make the grade. With no one willing to take him permanently, Kerrison would stay on Barcelona's books until 2014 when they finally terminated his contract. Today he can be found occasionally scoring in Brazil's second division for Londrina. Having firmly left the pitch, Kerrison is without doubt the worst of Guardiola's signings. Striker, Ibrahimovic. It's like you brought a Ferrari and drive it like a Fiat. That was the dim views Zlatan Ibrahimovic took when describing his life under Guardiola at Barcelona. Bought in response to Real Madrid's soaring spending power, Ibrahimovic was the showcase signing Barcelona needed. With a €66 million price tag, Zlatan quickly proved why he's one of the most desired strikers in the world, with 11 goals in his first 14 games. But question marks had been raised about Zlatan's suitability at Barca before he had even joined. Guardiola's dislike of abrupt players and Barcelona's tiki-taka style seemed to count against Ibra, and it wasn't long before cracks began to appear. After his brilliant early form, Zlatan scored just twice in 3 months, while club star Messi had designs on the central striker role that Ibrahimovic occupied. As Guardiola began to favour the Argentine, the relationship between the coach and Zlatan plummeted, with the two reportedly only speaking twice in 6 months. Zlatan and his agent Mino Raiola were quick to voice their disapproval at the situation, and it was no surprise to see the striker on the move the following summer. The Swede would eventually sign for AC Milan in a deal that saw Barcelona lose €42 million. While the